It's PDX. The future of building is here. By ZoomCare. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com. Bellagio's Pizza. Dough and sauce made fresh 6 days a week, right here in Wilsonville. And proud to be serving Northwest communities since 1996. Order online or through the app. By Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. By Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration, in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, within winning distance. Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com. Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. By Unitas Community Credit Union. Join the team at Unitas Community Credit Union to help you reach your financial goals. And by Langdon Farms Golf Club. There's no better course in the Northwest for year-round golf. Book your tee time at LangdonFarms.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman, with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome in. Happy Oregon Ducks Game Day to you. Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman hanging out with you for the next 2.5 hours. Oregon and Wisconsin coming up 4:30 right here on The Fan. You can watch it at home on NBC. Game 11 of the 2024 regular season. Let's start as we always do this time of year with a happy high school football coach.
Oh, yes.
Nice little easy dub last night. What are we, quarterfinals, semifinals? What are we into?
Semifinals.
Semifinal week now.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we got to try to get back in that state championship. We got a tough game, though, coming up, Sheldon High School. These guys look like Tarzan. These guys are big. These guys can run around.
You got a lot of Oregon Stafford kids down there.
Yeah, you do.
They import them down there,
you
man.
have these new players that show up like, well, who are these kids?
Hey, where do you come from, man?
I know they're not the regular Sheldon kids. So what's going on? But nothing we can do about it. We'll just go out and play. It's going to be a good game.
Well, congrats on the win last night. I know Dusty's Banks Braves survived as well. And, he had to watch it from Wisconsin. So he's watching from a hotel room, which is tough. Tough for a coach to be that far away and not have any impact on the game. So we'll chat with Dusty at some point in the next 2.5 hours. So congrats, everybody, advancing, and semifinals coming up this week with no Oregon game next week. So you get a little, we're all high school football focused next week, baby.
Hey, let's go.
Get back to the state championship.
We got to get there. That's what we got to do.
It'll be a fun week. Oregon and Wisconsin coming up, and let's start kind of as we always do, Anthony, with a look in the rearview mirror. So I was out last weekend. Maryland's in town. This was one for me that it finally felt a little weird with the Big Ten. You're playing Maryland in the middle of November, and it's just, all right, what are we doing? Just a little strange, and I think the team played a little strange as well. Not their best performance, but there's almost a positive and a negative of one. You had a bit of a wake-up call, but on the other side, I would argue Oregon played their C-minus game, and you look up at the end of it, it's a 21-point win.
Thank you.
Even when you're not at your best, you're still finding a way to pull away. What'd you make of the game last week?
I think that's when you know you're pretty good, when you beat somebody by 21 and you played bad.
Yep.
Seriously. I mean, you made a lot of mistakes. You didn't really do anything big, Yeah, it was just kind of everybody was watching like, this is it's kind of sloppy.
Yeah.
But we won by 21?
Yeah, and it's 39-18 or whatever the final ended up being.
And again, you go back in the day, you win by 21, 15 years ago. That's a big spread. That's a big spread.
It's a blowout, man.
21-3 is huge.
That's massive.
Right now, 21-3 is terrible.
Not enough. Not enough. More. We want more. Yeah, I don't know how you felt about it in the aftermath, because it's easy when you're watching the game to get frustrated. I just kind of found myself saying, just survive. Just get out of here. Survive. Healthy. Get out of here healthy. Get on to Wisconsin next week. I did wonder, though, and I'm curious your thoughts on this as a former player and as a coach, where sometimes, and I think you could look back to the start of the year for Oregon, those two games, as nerve-wracking as they were for us, I think were helpful for the team.
Yes.
To give them the experience in close games, one, but two, a bit of a, Hey, you don't win championships on paper. You got to go do it, and it's a bit of a wake-up call of we got to go get the job done. I wondered in the aftermath of that game last week if there's almost a positive reset of, oh, that's right. Lanning came out on the Wednesday leading into the Maryland game and said he was not happy with the effort of practice, a lot of penalties. They felt a little sloppy, that maybe you lose your focus, and then playing in a game where you feel like you should win and control it by an easier margin, maybe it's a wake-up call again to say, okay, let's dive back into the work here and come back, because if we play that way, we know at some point somebody might trip us up.
Well, I like what the players were saying in the press conference. Dylan Gabriel said, we played terrible, and we have to learn from our mistakes. And that, to me, is huge, because now you're willing to understand that, okay, yeah, we didn't play right. We made some mistakes. How do you learn? How do you get better? You go back and look at film, and then you move forward. So maybe it's good to make those mistakes.
In a win, in a 21-point win.
That's right. In a win. Yeah. And so you can correct that, because we always say that winning hides mistakes. Yeah. It does. But if you know you made a bunch of mistakes and you go back and look at film and say, no, we got to do this better. I need to read this better, whatever. Then the kids understand the situation. Yeah. And I think Dan Lanning and his staff, I think he has a good rapport with those kids for them to understand that. And for him and the staff to teach that to the kids. So that's why I like this team. When you talk about the teams in the past, the Oregon teams, the teams that went to the national championship, I like this team because of Dan Lanning. And the reason why I say that is because of how he coaches kids and how the kids trust him.
Yeah.
That is huge. Being an ex-player, when you have a coach and you will do anything for him, you work harder, you play harder, you don't want to disappoint him at all. And that's how those kids feel about Dan Lanning.
And they're taking instruction. They're not, sloughing off. There is an intense focus with this group. And
yes.
I think the challenge that elite teams will have throughout the course of a season, because you look across the country and tell me the 3 or 4 best teams you think there are, right? You want to say Ohio State's in there, okay. Nebraska had the ball at the 50-yard line in Columbus with a chance to win that game. They had a down game, right?
Yeah.
Georgia, for me, still one of the best teams in the country. They had close ones against Kentucky. They had a close one against Florida. Being able to, as an elite team, learn your lessons in a win and not need it to come in a loss where you finally learn or change things or make adjustments. I think that's one of the things I'm most excited to see today, of just simply, where is that adjustment? How much cleaner football? Is this now a trend? Does it become back-to-back weeks where it's some sloppy turnovers or some bad penalties and costly moments or missed assignments here or there? Or do you see a sharper focus from these guys? One of the things that will be working against them today is that this is their 8th consecutive game. They have not had a bye week since following the Civil War in September. So you got to bet a 2-month stretch here where you're playing every single week. A couple of times they're on Friday nights on short weeks, right? So you got kind of a turnaround there quickly, both at home and on the road in those 2 examples. So this is a challenge now where I think it really tests you mentally, physically, when you're at the end of that run where they're looking on the horizon of what's coming next week. It's a bye. Let's get there and let's rest up, and then you go on that final stretch run to try and win a national championship. But 8 straight games, man, that I don't care who you're playing. I don't care how good or bad you are. That is a challenge for a team and a coaching staff to go through.
Now, color me dumb here, but how often is it that you do have 2 bye weeks in a season?
I think it's a new thing with the sport this year with the expanded playoff.
Because typically to come more towards the middle of the season.
Usually, somewhere between week 4 and week 9, you get your bye. And Oregon,
so I'm not taking crazy pills.
Not taking crazy pills.
No.
I think that was one of the pushbacks from the administrators when we said we're making teams in the playoff play an extra 3 or 4 games. We're going to have to give them a breather at some point.
Correct.
And they thought, so you got 2 byes. Oregon's were just weirdly stationed at the very beginning of the year and now at the very end.
Yeah.
So,
well, also add to this, there's so many players on this football team who can play and who do play. They rotate D linemen. They rotate the linebackers on the defensive side of the ball. On the offense, the receivers are coming in rotating. You got 2 good running backs. You got 3 good running backs that can run 4 realistically.
Yeah.
So there are guys that are rotating in. So they're not. It's not a team that you just have 11 guys on offense and 11 guys on defense and they're getting every snap. It's not happening that way. So that helps.
Yeah.
But still, 8 games, that's a long stretch.
It's a long stretch. And then the double whammy on top of that is that for the second straight week now, Oregon having to play their 8th consecutive game, this time they're facing again a team who's coming off a bye. Last week, Maryland was coming off a bye.
Yeah.
So you got 2 weeks to sit around, kind of game plan, come up with something that you want to work with. And now Wisconsin has the same thing where they're at home. They were on a bye last week. Last time they played was 2 weeks ago against Iowa. They didn't look the part. They lost 42-10 to Iowa, but now you got to bye, kind of lick your wounds. They get healthy. So it's kind of that weird confluence of the schedule makers while at times giving Oregon advantages this year. Not the case here the last 2 weeks at the end of this stretch run, because you got that, all right, you got your 8th straight game. You're just trying to survive and get through, and here comes Wisconsin. They've been sitting on their ass for the last 2 weeks just waiting for you to come to town.
Now, taking a bye, our high school team, we came off a bye.
You did, first round of the playoffs.
And I was telling our kids, the thing for defense is tackling. You don't do it for 2 weeks. That is hard.
You want to get off your feet, you want everybody to rest.
And we struggled tackling in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. So you have to understand that you're going to be a little rusty. Any team that comes off a bye is going to be a little rusty.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to get rusty and be rusty against a football team who can jump all over you.
That is a valid point. I think we always look at buys and think they're going to be rested and ready to go, and they'll be chomping at the bit to get out there, and then sometimes that first quarter you're like, oh, okay, they look like I haven't played a game in 2 weeks.
Yes.
I for one feel qualified to say there's nothing wrong with being a little bit rusty.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. I think there's nothing wrong with being a lot of rusty, man. I love me some rusty. So Oregon, 8 straight games. They're looking to make it 11-0 for the first time since 2010. Something pretty cool happened in 2010. Oregon trying to get to 11-0 for the first time in 14 years. 8th straight game for them. 8th straight conference game should be added. And they're taking on a team in Wisconsin who is coming off a bye. Kickoff coming up at 4:30. Let's start diving into this matchup a little bit. We're going to go behind enemy lines. You're going to hear from Luke Fickell, who is in his second year as the head coach at Wisconsin. So that's coming up right around the corner. All the usual suspects here on the pregame show will be here. I'm assuming we're going to try and dial up Dusty, see if he's ready to jump around. Is he wearing any trousers?
I have reached out to Dusty to see if he's good for like that second hour.
Okay.
Top
maybe
of that
in
second
an hour
segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 1 o'clock maybe for Dusty, live from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
Somewhere in there.
Mike Jorgensen.
1:30-ish.
Man, 1:30 works too. Mike Jorgensen will hop on as well. You're going to hear from Joey Harrington. You're going to hear from Dan Lanning. We got a ton to get to. Let's start diving in. Oregon in Wisconsin. What are the Badgers bringing to the table? We'll start looking at the matchup. You got the Oregon Ducks pregame show just underway here on 1080 The Fan.
It is 44, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 49 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks game day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47, cloudy, breezy, and maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Wow, look at these Black Friday deals.
Presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
We'll give you a look at some scores around the country. Nothing earth-shattering going on here early on in the 9 a.m. slate. 12:30, 1 o'clock games getting close. Colorado looking to close out Utah. Texas was in a bit of a scare early with Arkansas, but they're starting to pull away from that one and might even have already gone finals. So a couple of teams trying to vie for a spot in the college football playoff looking like they will survive here early on a Saturday. And that's kind of the word of the day for me. You know, I mentioned the schedule for Oregon and 8 straight games, and you're going on the road, tough environment. We used to get so caught up in style points and, especially in a year where there was a 4-team playoff where you knew there was going to be undefeated and one-loss teams that were all kind of jumbled together. And what were your style points? What was your margin of victory? And all that stuff used to matter greatly. Now, you know what you need to do. You win the Big Ten, you're automatically in.
That's it.
If Oregon wins this weekend, I'd be shocked if they didn't make it, even if they, you could suffer a loss at some point and still make it as an at-large team. So style points don't matter as much as they used to. And my thought is just survive.
They're still talking about if 3-loss SEC teams can make it in. So
isn't that crazy?
I mean, a loss.
Come on now, 3 losses getting in.
12,
that to me is
12-team
that
playoff,
team gets
baby.
they get a golden ticket.
That's been my whole beef the entire time. Is
They
that when
do.
the SEC cannibalizes
SEC
itself, it's
Yes.
because they're so deep. When the
So-
Pac-12 used to cannibalize themselves, it's because they were weak.
Well, here's the difference.
Exactly.
There is one big difference, and that is the SEC wins national championships, and that's
I
why
know.
they get away with it.
All right, go ahead and point out the truth, I guess.
The only other
that
thing
is
that
the
I will
truth.
throw at you, because it is frustrating to see that stuff, and that's been all. Georgia loses this weekend to Tennessee. People say they're still alive in the college football playoff race.
There's no way.
But the only thing that I would say was, like, Colorado, who is about to put the finishing touches on a win over Utah. They're up 35-24 with 5 minutes to go. Colorado might win the Big 12 this year. And if you put Colorado in the SEC, where do we think they're finishing? That's the only thing that I say with a
You're
3-loss
right.
SEC
You're
team. I'm
right.
like, man, the Big 12's not good. The ACC's 2 best teams are Miami and SMU. If they had to play Georgia's schedule, they'd have 4 losses easily, right? So that's where I roll my eyes at it a little bit, but I'm also like, some of these schools, like Indiana's 11-0. They haven't played a team that's ranked all season, man. Like, make them go on the road to Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss, and how many losses do they have? So that's why college football is so hard to decipher who the best teams are, because everybody plays a different schedule.
Speaking
and
of
it's all
tough
imbalanced.
schedules, Alabama playing Mercer today.
That is a fair argument that you could definitely throw in the SEC's face. Playing Mercer would be nice this time of year. Essentially,
This time of year.
a bonus bye week, if you will. Get a little bit of work in.
I like cupcakes too. I'm a fat man.
Hey, who doesn't love a good cupcake, especially in November? Oregon does not have one today. They're in Wisconsin. This is a really hard team to get a read on. So they've played 2 highly ranked teams at home. One of them was Alabama. The other one was Penn State. Alabama went in there and beat them 42-10. Their starting quarterback, Wisconsin's that is, Tyler Van Dyke, got hurt in that game. Then they had Penn State a couple of weeks ago, and they hung around in that game. That was a 14-13 game, I think, going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Penn State scores a couple of late touchdowns. They win the game 28-13. They've had games where they blew out in 3 weeks in a row. Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern held them to 6, 7, and then 3 points, won a couple of those by 40 or 50. And then the last time we see them, they play Iowa, and they lost 42-10. So this is one of those, like, I'm going in trying to get a firm grasp on who the hell Wisconsin is, and I don't know. They have had times where they've looked like a good team, and they've had times where they've looked like a horrible team this year. And that's where you go into it not quite sure what type of opponent you're going to see when you start looking at Wisconsin and some of the numbers behind them. What jumps off the page to you about the Badgers this afternoon?
Well, their secondary is good.
Yeah.
They have some guys who can cover, and that's going to be a great matchup to watch with Oregon's receivers against their secondary. And their defense, their run defense, that's a problem.
Yep.
they can't stop the run. And then, if you're in the Big Ten, you got to stop the run. That's what they do, and that's why Iowa ran all over them. But at the same time, the offense for Wisconsin, they're okay. They're balanced, but the problem is when you have the guy touching the ball, every offensive snap is the quarterback, and he has 8 touchdowns and 8 picks.
Yep.
Now, giving the ball away. You can't turn the ball over, buddy.
When you're inferior talent-wise to a lot of the teams you're playing as well.
So that's the problem. And, and with Oregon, I think, I don't know, they're close. They're in the top 5 of pass breakups. Turn those into interceptions this game. Get the ball back to your offense and put this game away early.
It was nice to see that last week, and Lanning has kind of used that line all year where turnovers are such a fluky thing, right? I mean, you could be an inch away here, a tip ball away here.
Yeah.
There's such a fine line where the ball's not always going to bounce your way. And he has used the phrase, I think, most of the season that turnovers, when they start coming, they come in bunches.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you look up last week, you got a defensive scoop and score touchdown, and then 2 interceptions late in the second half that kind of sealed the game. And so they started to come in bunches.
Yeah. That was a fun third quarter.
That absolutely was. And Braden Locke, on his point, on your point on him, Anthony, is that he has started now. He came in relief against Alabama. He did not throw a pick in that game. He started in every game since then because Tyler Van Dyke's done for their year. He has thrown a pick in every game that he's started.
Yes.
And he has multiple games where he's thrown multiple picks.
Yes.
And so he's got 8 on the season and only, I think he's played 7 games or 6 games on the year, and so, or 6 starts, I should say, on the year. And so he does turn the football over a ton. I'm glad that you brought up the rushing yard number, though, because that, to me, is one of the most telling stats about this game. Wisconsin's run defense coming in, giving up defensively 165 yards per game on the ground.
Yes.
The only team that's lower than them in the Big Ten, this is an 18-team conference. That makes you 17 out of 18. The only team worse in rush defense than Wisconsin this year is Purdue.
Yeah.
And the Purdue is, we know, they're doo-doo.
Yeah.
So that's the only team that's even in the same ballpark as you. And so that's one of those things that you circle, I think, if you're the Oregon staff this week and saying, how do you take a crowd out of a game? How do you deflate the hopes and the sails of a home crowd and hoping for an upset of the number 1 team in the country? You go in there, you punch them in the mouth at the line of scrimmage, you run the football, that place will quiet out early. If that stat holds, I think it makes you feel a lot better about Oregon's chances tonight. But if they can find a way to play above their weight and maybe slow it down, that's where things get weird. Oregon's got to be able to run the football tonight.
Well, that's the worst feeling in the world as a defensive guy. Excuse me. You can't stop the run.
Yep.
They just keep running the ball. Every run, every option they're doing, run option. You think it's gonna be a pass? No, it's a run. Okay, you think let's load up the box. You still can't stop the run.
Right.
Okay, now it's 3rd and 5. Let's get they run. 3rd and 10, they run. Like, what are we doing here? And as me, as a defensive back, I'm looking at my D lineman going, will you guys slow this dude down?
Yeah, I'm not tackling him.
Will you slow the running back down? Or somebody just put your hands on him. Get off blocks.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin they're really bad.
They're not doing that. I'm tired.
No, they're really bad.
Tired of a running back lowering his shoulder 9 yards down the field on me, man. I got to keep making open field tackles.
When their DBs are leading the team in tackles.
Not a good sign.
It's a terrible sign. I've been there. Trust me. You got a lot of shoulder problems.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Taking on running backs every snap. No, you can't do that.
I mean, you mentioned in the opening segment the way Oregon rotates defensively in the front 7, and that has been really fun to watch. And I thought, one of the bigger takeaways, and I'm curious to see how it plays into tonight, is Oregon's offense, I would argue, last week had probably their worst performance since those first 2 games of the year. They just never quite got into didn't quite click and dropped balls and a couple of misassignments. They were a little off. That's going to happen throughout the course of a year. What was so impressive to me on the other side, though, was that I think you could argue Oregon's defensive front almost felt like they single-handedly won that game.
Yeah.
They knew Maryland was going to get rid of the ball quick. They had, 6 or 7 deflections at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Justin Jacobs, a linebacker who rotates. We haven't even talked about him much this year as a big interception.
Yes.
Brandon, the forced fumble by Jordan Birch that leads to a defensive touchdown. It felt like up front they had a group that almost just simply overwhelmed Maryland in that game. And without a penalty on a roughing the punter call, which was one of those unique kind of learning moments for football fans of where's the pocket, when can you hit the punter, is that a penalty and all that?
Yeah.
They almost won the game, and that's where, you talked about Braden Locke throwing all those interceptions. That was a bit of a problem for Maryland coming in, and so it's another game where your defensive front, if you can make him uncomfortable, he's a guy that's going to throw you the football a couple of times if you put pressure on him and force him into 3rd and long situations. And so it's another matchup. I think the Oregon defense licking their chops a little bit going into this one against Wisconsin. We'll look at some more of the numbers in terms of what Wisconsin does offensively, give you a couple of score updates as the 9 o'clock games are about to go final, 12:30 games about to kick off, some big ones coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So we'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of college football. We'll continue talking about Oregon, Wisconsin. Your thoughts always welcome. We're live on YouTube if you want to jump into the chat. The Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326 as well. Ducks looking to go 11-0, 4:30 right here on The Fan in Wisconsin. We're back after this, just getting started. Oregon Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
It is 45 and cloudy here in Portland. Excuse me, goodness. 49 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks game day forecast Calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into the, tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday. For the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall, 47, cloudy, breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Hey, it's Dusty. Victor Rico's just dropped new menu items. Restaurant quality, made fresh, and served fast. Plus, they're
Ball came out. That might be a fumble. All the way downfield quickly. Brandon Johnson. Nobody can catch him from behind. 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Oregon.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Wisconsin Badgers. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. 12:31 on your Saturday afternoon. Hope you're hanging out. Maybe you're driving around. We'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of college football today. One quick update before we start diving back into this matchup. Now, Clemson's on the outside looking in currently at the ACC titles. So SMU's undefeated in conference play. Miami has one loss, but they have the tiebreaker with Clemson. But that would be null and void if this potentially holds. Right now, Pitt has the ball. They are tied with Clemson 17-17 with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they're about just a little shy of midfield right now. So they're driving, and this would not be a good loss for Dabo Swinney, but feels like we've said that a lot here recently with Dabo and the way he's running his program. A guy who refuses to use the transfer portal, losing tough regular season games. If only there was a way that he could improve his roster and find guys that could come in and start. If only that option was available, and they just hit the quarterback in the head. There's not going to be any flag. Wow, ACC refs, they've had a wonderful year protecting Miami. Maybe now they're protecting Clemson. You just punch a dude in the face. They're not going to throw a roughing the passer flag. So Pitt's got it third down about midfield. We'll let you know how that one ends for anybody curious on the ACC Conference Championship race. A couple other finals from earlier. I think the Utah-Colorado game, let's see. Not quite 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, but Colorado's up 49-24.
That's over.
That one is done. And then what was the final of the Texas? Texas ended up beating Arkansas 20-10. And Northwestern did have a moment. I don't know if you're watching that this morning. They scored first against Ohio State. 7-0.
Really?
And then they gave up 31 unanswered, and they lost 31-7. So Ohio State moves to 9-1, and they got Indiana coming to town next week in a big showdown that will decide potentially part of the combination of who's in the Big Ten championship game next week. So, and by the way, Kurt Cignetti also signed a massive contract extension today, which is kind of the way it works in college football. You have one good run, automatically, boom, that dude's making $9 million a year now. Just like that. 8 games, 9 games, seen enough, baby, pay him. And
that's great.
So Indiana locked him up this morning, and they go to Ohio State next week, who got to win this week.
Hey, did you see the game last night? It was East Carolina. I think it was Tulsa. And in the stands, there was signs says "We want Oregon." Okay, Oregon's come a long ways. Now you got
we're
everybody.
Now that school?
Yes, we're
that happened. What?
Yes, we're that school.
Wow,
everybody wants us.
Are we a blue blood? Is that what you're telling me now?
I'm thinking, what?
We used to hold up signs. We want Bama back in the day. That's the way it used to be. Or what happened?
I saw that last time. I'm like, that's an Oregon sign. That's the O. That's the O.
That's a great sign, man. I love it.
East Carolina. What?
Yeah, you can have this, East Carolina. Bring it on, Pirates. We'll come out there and play anytime you want it. You just let us know when you want some of this.
That was good.
Oregon looking to go 11-0, the number one team in the country, taking on Wisconsin today. And we'll get to the injury report fully here in a bit. I am curious, Anthony, to ask you about the running back position. So Jordan James goes out last week. It was one of those weird, like, nobody really knew. There was nothing said during the game. He kind of was out. And then all of a sudden it dawned on everybody of like, oh, wait a minute. Jordan James hasn't played in a while, and he's standing on the sideline in a helmet.
With his helmet.
So we'll end up seeing how that looks, but I gave you that stat. We've been talking about Wisconsin's inability to slow down the run. What did you make of the way Noah Whittington looked? And then we're starting to see a little bit more, obviously, of Jaden Lamar, who got a nice chunk of carries. I think he had 6 carries, if you will, in the game last week. But a little bit running back by committee, just in case James isn't 100%. What do you think of the running backs and the way they played last week?
Well, before I give props to the running backs, offensive line, great job.
Yeah, no Marcus Harper.
Yeah, still blocking, doing the right thing. Noah Whittington is running like the old Noah Whittington. His quickness, he's powerful, and he's what, 5'10", about 210 pounds. There's nothing to hit there. All you see is helmets and legs when you come to tackle him. So he's a guy that's got great vision. He can block, also catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's his forte. Now, but another thing, when you look at this, teams still got to worry about Dylan Gabriel running the football.
They do,
and it takes away from really spotlighting. You're talking about the running backs as the defense, because you can't just look at the running backs. You got to watch Dylan Gabriel. So now you're taking a guy, off of that running scheme to deal with the quarterback, and they all can't, get on the running back. So that's why it opens up really for any good running back that Oregon will have. They will be successful in the scheme when you have a quarterback who is a run threat.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel, 4 carries, 28 yards last week.
That's just
nice
enough.
19-yard run.
It's just enough.
Yeah.
Just to have you hanging there looking at him, and then all of a sudden now he's not running the ball. Now Noah Whittington has the ball, and he's got a lot of one-on-one situations, and you're not going to tackle a good running back one-on-one. It's hard to do that.
Yeah, just to keep that backside defensive end from collapsing down, just to have him just stand there for a second.
Just for a second.
Think about it. Okay, now I got to go close. But by that point, your running back maybe is through the hole, or you're hoping already 5 yards down the field. And, and in those rare instances where that DN does crash down, there comes the pole. There goes Dylan Gabriel, and we saw it against Ohio State late in that game.
Yep. And that's why it's so dangerous, and that's why Wisconsin has to stop the running game of Oregon if they want to have success today.
Looking at the other side of it, Wisconsin offensively, we've talked about Braden Locke and the interceptions that he throws. Their rushing offense is what's going to need to keep them in this game. They average 173 rushing yards per game. That's good for 5th best in the Big Ten, and so that's where they're going to try and hang their hat. And I think if you're Oregon, that's a matchup that you like. When I look at Oregon defensively this year, I like the way that they played the run. Now, they've been hurt at times by a mobile quarterback, and, look, who isn't hurt by mobile quarterbacks, right? Like, that's
what it is.
Not an easy thing to do and not an easy thing to slow down. But Oregon's rush defense giving up just a hair over 100 yards per game on the ground this year. That's one, though, I think if you're a front seven, you're coming into today, this is Big Ten football. You look at Wisconsin offensive line; they're all 6'7", 340 pounds. I mean, it's just this is big boy football. They're going to try and run the rock on you, similar to what Illinois tried to come into town and do, give or take a month ago. And so I think if you're that front seven, you're saying, all right, if we can slow down the run on early downs, winning first down is really big in that category. Put them in 3rd and long, but Wisconsin's going to come in today and they're going to try and run the football because that's the bread and butter of their offense. The question will be, can they do it on this Oregon front?
Well, you want Wisconsin's quarterback to throw the football. You have to stop the run. That's Oregon's defense. Hey, we're going to stop the run and make him step in the pocket and throw the ball downfield. They don't have the 2 receivers like they had last week against Maryland.
Maryland's got some dudes on the outside.
They do. And so it's a different story. When you got a quarterback throwing 8 interceptions, okay, now it's a different story. So let's stop the run, make him throw the ball. Oregon has corners that can cover man-to-man, and I think it's going to be a lot of man-to-man situations by bringing safeties in the box to stop the run.
And one thing I will ask for today, can we catch a punt? Can we do that?
I know.
Can we catch punts again? Can that be
ever since Tez?
Or just get out of the way. I don't care. I'll sacrifice the 10 yards in field position. Just get out of the way. Like, just catch it. Can we just catch it? They were lucky. That almost bit them. Evan Stewart dropped one inside. What was that? The 10 or 15-yard line early in that game, and then they put in Gary Bryant, who was great to see him back, and he handled the football. So I'm assuming he'll be the main punt returner today. But that was an issue in the Michigan game where it gave them a short field and then an easy touchdown. Almost an issue again last week. Thankfully, Oregon fell on it. I think Dante Manning was the one that fell on that one. So let's catch our punts today. Catch our punts, and we'll be off to a good start. Hopefully the defense forces a lot of them, and Oregon doesn't turn any of them over. Let's go behind enemy lines. Luke Fickell, the head coach at Wisconsin, he's in year 2. What did he have to say about the matchup? What Oregon is bringing to the table? You're going to hear from the head coach of Wisconsin. That is coming up next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
45 and cloudy here in Portland, 49 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47, cloudy, breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Hey, Duck fans, just like our team on the field at
chance and will get on it back at the 23-yard line.
This is Behind Enemy Lines, a look at Ducks opponents with the insiders who know them best on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's go behind enemy lines. Luke Fickell in year 2 at Wisconsin. It's funny how we judge coaches so quickly now. You used to get that kind of 4-year runway of like, let him get a recruiting class in.
I know.
Let's see how it turns out. But now you have so many guys like Kurt Cignetti, who I don't really know what to make of him long term at Indiana.
Google me, B.
So he says he's a Google me, bitch. I win. It's like, you're not wrong. You're undefeated this year,
Yeah.
but his recruiting class is like 50th in the country. A lot of his guys are transfers. So is this like you hit lightning in a bottle and then it regresses? But when you have a guy like that come in year 1 and go 10-0, everybody else who hired a coach looks around and says, hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
How come he can do it in Indiana? We're Wisconsin. Why are we one game above 500?
Yeah.
And he's in year 2. They went 7-6 last year, lost their bowl game, so 7-5 in the regular season. They're 5-4 this year, and this would unquestionably be his biggest win as the head coach at Wisconsin. He was talking about the atmosphere, Camp Randall, all that. Here's Luke Fickell talking about night games.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. I know that environment, atmosphere, once the ball's kicked off is awesome. There's some things that we're able to do with getting guys here, in the recruiting, part of the game. But it is difficult. It is difficult sitting around and waiting all day. And I'm not one that's going to enjoy watching football during the day because there's so many things that are in your head and are going on. But we also don't get a choice. We don't get to pick and choose. And when you have, a league like we do and, been in a position like this with the number 1 team in the country coming in, you just got to recognize that this is what the opportunity is, and we got to find ways to handle it and handle it better.
What an opportunity.
What an opportunity.
That's how Dan Lanning feels.
That's how he feels.
Yeah.
He wants to go cook on their grill. Do you remember the game there in 2000? Do you remember when Oregon went out there with Joey?
That was so long.
That was a long time ago.
I just retired.
You just retired from the NFL,
I was
right?
just thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where was I? 2000. Yeah.
Were you still in the league in 2000? You were out.
I was out.
Just
That was
out?
the year. That was my first year out.
First year out.
Yeah.
So they went in there with Joey. They lost 27-23. So that was, and then it started a back-to-back. And then the next year, when Oregon went to the Fiesta Bowl, they played them in Eugene and won the game 31-28. Oregon has now won 3 in a row, counting that game against Wisconsin. They beat them in the Rose Bowl, of course, in 2012. The game where Chip's jumping up and down the sideline.
Yep. That was great.
One of the best games I've ever been to.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
winning that first Rose Bowl and everything that went into that was a memorable night down in Pasadena. And then we were down there doing the game together in 2020, right before the whole world shut down. We were down in Pasadena, and Oregon won that game 28-27, thanks to the Wisconsin punter not being able to catch a snap, and Brady Breeze returning a defensive touchdown in that game.
Right.
And Herbert was awesome in that one as well, using his legs. So a little bit of the Wisconsin history. It is a tough atmosphere, though. I mean, you're going into one of the louder venues in the country, but I think, Anthony, we talked about this year. They got the experience. I mean, going on the road to Michigan is a challenging atmosphere. That's going to get you ready for an atmosphere like tonight.
Yeah, but the coaches they're saying this all the time. We're not playing against the crowd.
Nope.
You're playing against the guys on the field, and we'll play anywhere. I don't care where we're going to play. If we can put some turf on the field, on the ground, let's play.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's the night games that guys don't like because you're waiting around to play. And you want to be out there so bad. So yeah, I mean that's he's right. It's you don't want to sit there and just hang out because you've got so many thoughts going through your head, trying to visualize the game. Like, okay, is the game going to start? Yeah. I still got 5 hours till we, and it's 2:00.
Just getting a pregame meal in. I'm trying to stretch. I'm just sitting around my hotel room, getting ready to go.
Yes.
Waiting and
so
waiting and
that's
waiting.
hard. That's hard.
That part of it is definitely hard.
Because you know what it's not?
Eggs, breakfast, and go whoop ass.
No. There's no eggs and breakfast. It's more like a steak and potatoes and whoop ass. Is that what we want to do? Steak and potatoes, whoop ass?
I feel like that's pretty heavy.
It's a little heavy for a football game, but I'm not going to turn down steak and potatoes. Luke Fickell was asked about Oregon, the way they're built, and a lot of that storyline existed in August. Hey, can Oregon handle the physicality of the Big Ten? Will they be able to hang with the big boys of the Big Ten?
I mean, I'd say talent is the first and foremost thing. It's hard to say. I think that as the year ends, we'll have a better chance to kind of look back at it and say, hey, how is this? Because there's a lot of things that are becoming factors in it. But it's kind of hard when you're in the midst of it to try to say what is one of those determining factors that is giving them an opportunity to be where they are right now. Depth, talent, and I think a quarterback. is one of those things that, it's a great place to start, no matter what league and what level that you're going to be at. And it might be in the reverse order from what I said.
Remember when we talked about people talking about that around the country in August? Can Oregon handle the physicality of the Big Ten?
I know. That drove me crazy.
I think it drove them crazy, too. The way they're playing, I think they heard all that.
Yes. I mean, come on. I mean, there's only one team in the Big Ten when you talk about big and physical, Ohio State.
Yep.
And Oregon's beating them. Oregon's beating almost everyone in the Big Ten.
Yep.
What are you talking about being physical? No. That was driving me crazy.
These are not your small, fast Chip Kelly teams.
If I hear one more analyst talk about it that way, I'm going to lose my mind. I feel like half the time I'm watching any sort of Oregon coverage, that's like the way they preface it Oregon's known as this flashy, like Chip Kelly has been gone for over a decade.
Yeah,
man.
watch a game, dude.
Really?
Like, do we not remember Mario Cristobal and what he tried to build in the offensive lines? Like, did we not watch Oregon play last year when they went 11-1 in the regular season and physically dominated teams at the line of scrimmage? It's so funny the way people view Oregon and how there was that little moment in time that they can't get out of their head.
The Chip Kelly era.
That's the way that they've always blur offense and they're going to go up tempo. It's like, no, they're not.
No.
They actually huddle quite often and they like to run the football. And I don't know what the hell you've been watching for the last 7 years, but that's who they've been. And I think Oregon can handle the physicality of the Big Ten. He is right though. I mean, quarterback play, depth. Obviously, and skill position. I mean, those are all very important things, and Oregon can check all those boxes.
Yeah.
He was also asked, their secondary, and you brought this up earlier, Anthony, when you look at Wisconsin, their secondary is good. That's maybe the strength of this football team for the Badgers. Luke Fickell talked about how they will fare against Oregon.
They're going to be challenged, in different ways, and that's the beauty of college football, right? You could be challenged each and every week in a lot of different ways, and this one be one that maybe we haven't seen really the entire year. The ability for them to throw the ball down the field, the dynamic of the wide receivers that they have, obviously the quarterback and the ability for him to make plays both with his feet and in the air. So they're going to be challenged in many ways. We got the utmost confidence, right? I mean, we talked about Rico here earlier. There's going to be a lot more opportunities this week for him to be in positions to have a chance to make some plays. And he's going to be challenged, there's no doubt, in a lot more ways. And, so that's on them a little bit and on us as well. But one of those things that excites you about playing a game like this, that, hey, we believe guys that we've got that are really good football players. They're going to be put in some positions to be challenged. And, I got an utmost confidence they'll step up to the challenge.
So you mentioned the Rico name there. He's talking about Ricardo Hallman, who is he's a stud. He had 7 interceptions last year, to the point where, just to give you a glimpse of the way teams have tried to potentially go after him, he had 7 interceptions and a bunch of pass deflections last year. He's hardly seen any action this year because teams are just not even attempting to throw the ball in his direction. I don't think that will be the case for Oregon. I don't know how many teams, maybe outside of Alabama, that Wisconsin has faced this year that has the weapons on the outside that Oregon has. If for as good as Penn State is this year, they don't have the firepower offensively in the passing game that Oregon has. But the strength of this team is their secondary, and Ricardo Hallman, no interceptions this year, 7 last year. So he's a dangerous, dangerous player.
Here's the key to take their secondary out of the game. Oregon run the football. Because now the secondary guys are just running off, getting ran off with the receivers.
Yeah.
And they have to turn around and go tackle somebody. Just Oregon run the football. And then I think the matchup, the issues with Wisconsin in the matchup in the secondary is not the receivers against the DBs, it's the tight end against the linebackers. That's where Oregon you want to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So, hey, we're going to throw it deep now. We're going to run the football, and then a little play action, pop the ball to Terrence Ferguson.
Yep.
That would hurt you, and that would kill you as a defense, to be honest.
One of those things, too, where you start keying on the run, and maybe Oregon's running the ball efficiently, and then all of a sudden, there goes Evan Stewart right by you. Because all of a sudden you're looking, all right, where's he coming? Where's Jordan James, and where's Noah Whittington? And then, oh, whoops, there goes 7. He's behind me now.
As soon as those corners get bad eyes or the safeties, and you want to come up and help with the run, and then you're right. Evan Stewart is running right past you.
Right over the top, man.
Yeah.
Quick score update for you. Pitt in the Clemson game. They kicked a field goal to take the lead. Clemson just broke a 50-yard touchdown run. Cade Klubnik, their quarterback, a 50-yard touchdown run. So Clemson back on top. There's a little over a minute to go in that game. And they're looking to stay alive in the ACC Championship. Chase, Oregon State Air Force just kicked off. And Air Force scored a touchdown on their opening drive. So they're up 7-0 on Oregon State. We'll give you a fuller look here coming up in a little bit at all the other scores from around the country in college football. Let's get to our Zoom Care injury report, though, a list that is getting longer and longer over the last couple of weeks. Who's in, who's out? Well, we can't really tell you because they don't tell us, but we'll tell you the most we know in terms of who might be playing this afternoon in Wisconsin. That is coming up next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
46 and cloudy here in Portland, 48 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47, cloudy, breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day.
We should have our guys available. Right now, we're still waiting to see. Have some guys that still have to get healthy.
This is the Zoom Care Injury Report. A look at the injuries that could impact today's game and the key matchups in college football. Brought to you by Zoom Care. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at zoomcare.com.
Well, who the hell's in, who the hell's out? We don't know, but we'll try and make sense of it. Last week, as a defensive coordinator, do you ever get a little concerned when you see a defensive lineman look the way Jordan Birch looked, and then all of a sudden an offensive coordinator is going to start, hey, can I come over here for a few more snaps over here, man?
But let's go back. Watching that fake punt, did you think that was him running? I thought it was a running back.
I saw the number one. I thought it was Holden.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it afterwards and all the commentators saying, oh, Jordan Birch with the, I was like, no, that wasn't Birch.
That was Holden.
Come on.
He don't run like that.
Leonard Powder doesn't move like that. And I was like,
that guy looked like about maybe
kidding me?
190, 200, the way he was running.
He's 6'6", 290.
Yes.
I read a thing from, I think it was maybe Tyson Alger this week that said, like in high school, they had him at so many different positions.
Who's going to stop him in high
Tight
school?
end, running back, quarterback,
Nobody.
Wildcat plays, just everywhere.
Dude, if that kid was on my high school football team, I'd give him the ball every play. I would never call the non-Jordan Birch play. Are you kidding me? That guy's a man amongst boys.
High school kids don't want to tackle him.
No, I want nothing to
Not
do with
as
that
a high
guy.
school kid. They weigh about, 150, the middle linebacker?
Man.
Come on.
But he had been out of the lineup, came back obviously against, was it the Michigan game? I think he came back for a couple of snaps, a little bit more action last week against Maryland, but then he gets dinged up, maybe a rolled ankle. They didn't really specify. Lanning was asked about it this week, said they're being cautious, but he expects him to be able to go. So make of that what you will. And the same for Jordan James, who we talked about earlier in the depth of running back. He went out, had the helmet on the sideline the entire second half.
Odd, though, wasn't it?
Only 7 carries for 29 yards. And I didn't know if that was he actually was dinged up or was that more of a maybe there was some sort of, his hamstring was a little tight in practice and we're playing Maryland and we're up by 20. Like, get him the hell out of the – why would we give him extra wear and tear in that game?
You manage the players as a coach. You're like, you know what? Let's save him. We still got some tough games left on the schedule.
Yep.
If we can do it, let's do it.
Especially now with Noah Whittington running the way he's running.
Exactly right.
Give that guy the rock, man.
Yeah.
He's fresh. He's ready to go. He's hitting his stride at this point in the season. So it's hard to know what to make of either of those injuries, but it does sound like both of them will be available to go. Marcus Harper, the offensive lineman who went down against Michigan, he did not play last week. No real reporting on him and whether or not he'll be able to go. I will say, though, I don't know how I thought Dave Iuli filled in pretty solid, man.
Well.
He's a big body.
Well.
He'd been out most of the year. And
yeah, he did well.
He didn't run the ball dominantly against Maryland, but I don't know if I put that all on the offensive line. They just had a clunky game as an offense as a whole. That's not just on one guy or one group. And so Dave Iuli, I thought, played really well. And then the other guy that we've kind of talked about for a chunk of the year, and we mentioned him in returning punts a bit ago, Gary Bryant, man. Great to have him back as a guy that you thought you were going to have at the start of the year, and a great time for him to return because Tez is still out, and who knows when he will be returning. So Gary Bryant, maybe a bigger role in the offense
today. But did you notice that he was just the punt returner?
They didn't put him in
at receiver.
On offense,
Yes. And is that you managing, you're going to manage these
I don't
players?
know, man.
Trying to figure out, do we put him in now or do we save him?
I didn't know if it was let's give him another full week of practice and make sure he's fully up to speed, but he's clearly healthy enough to play to return punts.
Yeah, if you put him in a game to catch a punt,
that's where
he's got to go.
Yeah,
he's got to run.
He does.
He should be. And again, if you have enough dudes, you can manage these players and go. You know what? Let's just put him right here for a little bit. Next, so we might see him as a receiver.
Could be today.
Today, yeah.
You only had 3 receivers with a catch last week. Obviously, Tez down. Evan Stewart had 6, Trayshawn Holden had 2, and Justice Lowe had 4. Those are the only receivers with a catch for Oregon in the game. You did get a lot of action with your tight ends, and Kenyon Sadiq. Terrence Ferguson had a nice game, including his first touchdown of the year. So it was kind of a, next man up mentality a little bit. But
how did we get 9 games into the season before T. Ferg got a touchdown?
It's one of those weird anomalies where he had one against Michigan, I want to say, where they tripped him up at like the half-inch yard line where he was going in. And they remember earlier in the year in the Michigan State game, I would argue that one of those picks was because they were trying to force a ball to him to try and get him a touchdown when Gabriel threw one of those picks in the end zone. Because I think they were trying to force it and get him a ball in the end zone. So we'll see who ends up officially being in the lineup today. I would be my educated guess. I'd be surprised if Jordan James didn't play, and I'd be surprised if Jordan Birch didn't play, based on the way they talked about him during the week. The other guys, Marcus Harper, not quite sure exactly where he's at and if he'll be able to go, but Dave Iuli, again, I thought played pretty well coming in there in reserve. So there is a look at your ZoomCare injury report brought to you by ZoomCare. More than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington. ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com. We got Clemson and Pitt coming down to the wire. Pitt's got the ball, 14 seconds left. They need a touchdown, though, to win. They're on about the 25-yard line. So we'll let you know how that game ends on the other side of this break. We'll give you a full score look. And now it is time, coming up next, for the Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week. We're back after this on 1080 The Fan. Gambler, I would have locked this in earlier.
The Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week, brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel, within winning distance.
All right, welcome back in. Oregon Ducks pregame show. Clemson went final against Pitt. They survived 24-20, so still alive in the ACC championship race. This is one of those unique things about the expanded playoff where if it was still the 4-team model, nobody would give a rip about Clemson and what they did today.
Right.
But if they win the ACC, they got a guaranteed spot into the college football playoff. And so you're still alive this late in the year despite some bad games and some bad losses. So Clemson survives against Pitt 24-20. Oregon State, by the way, for those of you wondering how the Bees are doing, they're on the brink of falling down 14-0 early against Air Force.
Ooh.
That is 2-7 Air Force.
Ooh.
2-7 Air Force. They went 3-0 on their opening drive. Ben Branson was supposed to be the starting quarterback again this week, and then he didn't even get on the plane to go to Air Force. And nobody knows why, so he just wasn't there, and so they went back to Giovanni McCoy. No, I don't know if he got hurt. Trent Bray was asked at a press conference this week, will Branson be your starting quarterback again? And he said unequivocally, yes, he will be. And then he wasn't even on the plane. So
I thought maybe they turned to Ryan Gulbranson.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well played there. So we'll keep you updated on that one and how it is shaking out there. My lock of the week. Now, look, let's just all pretend like I'm undefeated on the year. Let's just roll that out. I haven't lost a game all year.
What is your record?
I mean, just undefeated. I haven't lost, man. I'm dominating this year.
What you got?
We're going to go
What you got?
a game kicking off here in about 13 minutes. I can't do a game that's already underway. I'm going to go for a game in 13 minutes. I would argue, now some might call me an SEC homer for saying this. I think if South Carolina was in the ACC or the Big 12, they could win that conference. I think South Carolina's got one of the better defenses in the country. Lenora Sellers, their quarterback, can run around and make plays. South Carolina is a good football team. 2 of their losses came, one to Alabama, where they didn't get a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
Damn near beat them in Tuscaloosa. And the other one was an LSU loss at home in which their quarterback got hurt, and they got absolutely railroaded by officials. I think they're one of the more underrated teams in the country. I think Missouri sucks. I think that is a bad football team this year. And I am laying the hammer South Carolina minus 10.5 against Missouri. There is your lock of the week.
Wow, that's bold.
What do we think? You like that one?
Yeah.
The good thing about picking these games that are going on during the show is we get to them watch, and then you can be like, hey, look at that. Missouri's up 14-0. Right out of the gate, man.
Missouri, my defensive, my linebacker coach played at Missouri. I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, I don't.
Can't go against the Tigers.
I'm gonna have to go against you on that one. Yeah. I don't know.
We got a little show bet going on here. At least for the first half, we'll be
Okay.
wrapped up by the end of that game, or by the time the game hits halftime. But I like South Carolina at home, man. You don't go into Williams-Bright Stadium in November and get a win.
That's true.
Lock of the week brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel within winning distance online at legendscasino.com. Let's get to our keys to the game. What does Oregon need to do? We've already kind of started diving into some of the parts of this matchup. What are some of the key points for Oregon to get a win on the road in Wisconsin? That is coming up next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victorico's Mexican food. Order Victorico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
46 with some showers here in Portland, 48 cloudy in Madison. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday. For the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall, 47 cloudy, breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victorico's Mexican food.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com.
We'll take a look at the Big Ten here coming up in a moment. What's going on around the conference? A couple of finals already. Nebraska USC just kicked off. USC benched their starting quarterback. Let you know how that one's going early on down in Los Angeles as both teams are trying to get to a bowl game. USC 4-5. They desperately need this win. I got Notre Dame looming on the schedule, UCLA looming on the schedule, so they need a win in order to get bowl eligible. And Nebraska's still one win away from bowl eligibility. So we'll take a look at all that. Keys to the game, Anthony, when we look at it, I think we kind of already circled the biggest one, and you highlighted Wisconsin's inability to stop the run. That's got to be key number one today.
Oh, that's the offensive line of Oregon. Yeah. Taking care of business. Giving a lot of holes for the running backs to run through.
I would say, too, the thing I would add to it as well, and it was an issue last week. Thankfully for Oregon, at times this year, has disappeared completely. I want to say in the Michigan game, maybe it was, they had like 2 total penalties in that game. Last week against Maryland, man, 12 for 95.
Yeah, I know.
That was a lot. They're doing a lot to hurt yourself. How many times did you have a drive for Maryland that was extended because of a pass interference or a holding, the one in the end zone, you had the roughing the punter, you kept giving them life, and those are the kind of things on the road you give the crowd life. Eliminate the penalties is my biggest key.
And it's funny, I said this last week, I don't think Maryland, they might have had 0 points if Oregon didn't have those personal fouls.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unreal. On fourth down.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you keep giving a team life in the red zone.
Yeah.
More chances to score, they're going to score. And that's on Oregon. And it's not on Maryland. So, Dan Lanning says it all the time. It's not against another team that we're playing. It's against us. We can't beat ourselves.
Yeah. Never been truer today. If Oregon comes with their B+, A- effort, there's not a world that Wisconsin can beat you.
No.
The only way they beat you is if you show up with your C- effort, your penalties and, dumb mistakes, missed assignments and that kind of stuff. It allows them an opportunity to hang around. You mentioned maybe not giving up points. I mean, it started opening drive of the game. They forced Maryland 3 and out. And you get a roughing the punter call. Maryland ends up scoring a field goal on that drive. Just right out of the gate, you say, okay, you just extended that drive for him. What did you make of his strategy to get the holding and DPI calls down? He made the secondary wear boxing gloves all week at practice this week. Playing covered. So you going to grab? Here you go. You're going to play with boxing gloves. You can't grab anybody with these things on.
I do get frustrated in today's game where DBs are always grabbing guys. Yep. Because we always say, you don't cover guys with your arms and hands. You can't cover a guy like that. You have to cover them with your legs. You have to run with them. Yeah. When you start reaching out and grabbing, now you're going to start running slower because you're not pumping your arms.
Yep.
And then the official's going to see you grabbing.
Yep.
Stop grabbing. Okay. Stop. I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine.
I can tell that one bugs me a little bit.
We'll hear them address that too in the Coach's Corner. Pretty soon.
About playing with boxing gloves on.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good. I was thinking about that this week. It's like that's not a bad strategy of you stop grabbing. Damn it! Here's something now you can't grab or make them play with big clubs on their hands.
We have them put their hands behind their back.
Just go play it. Yeah, run around hands behind their back.
And then the press. Technique, your press coverage, back pedal, do all that, slide back and forth with your hands behind your back so you can't grab the guy.
Yeah, I love that too.
Use your legs.
Use your body.
Yes.
Make sure your eyes are in the right spot. The only other one, I don't know if you have any other keys, the only other one that I'm looking at today, felt like their offense lacked in explosive plays last weekend. I'd like to, passing game, you had a couple of chunk plays here and there. I know Whittington had one long run, I think a 28-yarder. Getting back to some explosive shots down the field,
yes,
I think it would be nice because I have a feeling Wisconsin's going to come in tonight with that. Let's not let them run the football. We know our run defense isn't very good, so you might, similar to the Ohio State game, get some of those favorable matchups on the outside. You take a couple of shots early, loosens everything up. I want to see explosive plays in the passing game.
And I think the lack of explosion plays is no Tez Johnson.
That hurts you, man.
That hurts you. Evan Stewart, yes, but it starts with Tez Johnson, and then it goes from there, and he's not out there leading it.
Yeah.
And so now Dylan Gabriel's like, well, let me protect this football and throw some short routes.
Yep. Everything was kind of underneath last week. A lot of that stuff around the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And, to your point, I think Evan Stewart and Tez are both number one wide receivers.
Yeah.
And you got to always key on, and one of them's out, allows them to key on Tez a little bit more, Evan Stewart a little bit more with him still being in the lineup. So those are your keys to the game. Audi Wilsonville offers unmatched service to help you find the perfect car online at AudiWilsonville.com. What's going on in the Big Ten? Nebraska USC just kicked off. Ohio State played earlier today. We'll take a look at the Big Ten. There was a game last night with Washington Washington played host to UCLA. Let you know what's going on in the Big Ten. That is coming up next. But now it is time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victorico's Mexican food. Order Victorico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
46 with some showers here in Portland, 48 cloudy in Madison. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 50. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47 cloudy, breezy, and maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
Your home for Oregon Ducks football is KFXX KWJJ HD2 Portland.
Go to the house!
1080 The Fan, an Odyssey sports station. It's time to take a look at this big, beautiful coast-to-coast conference.
More Big Ten teams, they will benefit. I can't wait for it.
This is the Big Ten Preview. A look at the conference schedule on the Odyssey app. And your home for Oregon Ducks football. 1080 The Fan.
Well, we had a final last night in the Big Ten. Washington got a win over UCLA. I know you were working last night, Anthony.
Yeah.
I will give you the update on this game. It was dumb and it was drunk.
Oh.
And
Okay.
neither team really deserved. It was one of those, like, does anybody want to win this football game? Washington ended up pulling away and winning the game 31-19. UCLA had a ton of chances early. They got inside the Washington 10-yard line, settled for a field goal. They got in there and then fumbled. Every time one team would turn it over, the other team would turn it right back over to them. It's one of those kind of games.
Sloppy game.
Very, very sloppy game. It was senior night for the Huskies. They do get to bowl eligibility with their 6th win of the year. So the Huskies will be going to a bowl game. They have a bye next week, and then we all know the final game of the regular season will be at Autzen against the Huskies. So for those who are wondering how that game worked out, Washington did get the win. They benched, by the way, Will Rogers in the game. I don't know if that's a permanent thing or not. Damon Williams, their freshman quarterback, Will Rogers threw 2 really bad interceptions, and they just were like, nope, they went to the kid. I don't think he got hurt. I was also watching a glorified money grab on Netflix, so I had 2 different. I didn't quite tell what was going on. It's like I don't know which one of these is a worse product right now, but they ended up playing their freshman quarterback last night.
It wasn't a glorified money grab. It was just a money grab.
That's true. Yeah, glorified.
Exactly right.
It's exactly what it was. Everybody was getting paid out of that thing.
That young quarterback can run now.
He can run.
I've seen him in the past.
He can run.
That kid can go.
That honestly, they had a couple of drives late when they started to separate a little bit, where it was all just broken assignment up front, defensive tackle in his face, make a guy miss, scramble for 10 yards,
and you take off.
Rinse and repeat,
That's
rinse
what
and
I've
repeat.
seen in the past.
That was
Kid
basically
can
their offense in the
Yeah.
second half of that game. So I'll be curious how that works out. Just file that away for 2 weeks from now. I don't know if Will Rogers will be back in the lineup or if they'll go with the freshman, but the freshman did end up finishing the game last night. Ohio State beat Northwestern 31-7 earlier today at Wrigley. Nebraska USC just kicked off. They are scoreless early in the fourth quarter there, and Penn State is on the road at Purdue. That is already a 14-0 game. Purdue is not good.
Maybe Will Rogers just needs to get back on that horse.
That could help.
Sorry, bad dad joke.
But you can always count on Rusty for one of those a show. We fed our quota on your bingo card. A good Rusty dad joke, man. I love it. Rutgers, Maryland today. For anybody that cares, that's a game at 3 o'clock on FS1. Is there anybody listening right now that will be watching Rutgers, Maryland at 3 o'clock today?
I doubt it.
Do you think we have one person out there listening that's
There
saying,
might be one. It's
yes!
probably that one guy that listens to Primetime from Sweden.
We got a Swedish
Probably that
primetime
guy.
listener.
Yeah, maybe he might.
Maybe he's a big Rutgers fan.
Yeah.
He's keeping an eye on that game. So that's the only other game in the Big Ten today. Oh, I missed one. Illinois is up 21-9 on Michigan State at the half. So Jonathan Smith also trying to get to a bowl game. They need 2 more wins to get there. They are 4-5 on the year. They are down 21-9 at halftime on the road at Illinois. There is your look at your Big Ten conference slate this week. Let's hear from the head coach, Dan Lanning, talking about wearing boxing gloves in practice, his philosophy going into the Wisconsin game. He joins Isaac and Suk every single Thursday. Hear from the head coach of the Oregon Ducks next on 1080 The Fan.
Time for the Unitas Community Credit Union Coaches Corner. Comments from Oregon coach Dan Lanning with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Join the team at Unitas Community Credit Union to help you reach your financial goals.
Oregon's a unique school in the sense that it becomes a school that a lot of kids consider their dream school, but they might be thousands of miles away. A great example of how the brand resonates throughout the United States.
The Ducks Coaches Corner with Isaac and Suk on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
And as part of the recruiting process, are you going to promise backup O-linemen fix 6 touchdowns now? Because you're out doing bits. We're now throwing touchdowns to backup O-linemen. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know that we have to promise it, but we can just point to the proofs in the pudding, right? When you come here and you play, you might get an opportunity like that.
Can I ask, where does that come from? Like, I'm sitting there watching that. I'm not sure which I was like, oh, my God, this is happening. The fake punt to a 300-pound defensive lineman deep in your own territory, or a record-breaking touchdown to a backup offensive lineman.
Yeah, we always try to be creative and find things that we think will be hard for the opponent. Some of those things we practice a long time, and almost all of them we describe this is the perfect scenario that we would like this to happen in. And it's just unique that both those scenarios popped up in that game, and it worked out.
Well, Dylan got the record, and it was to him, so who gets the ball?
Yeah.
His only tutty.
Definitely Dylan's ball.
Definitely Dylan. Okay.
For now, right? Only tutty for now. I mean, now people are going to have to game plan Janoris when he's out there on the field, right?
Yeah, Birch, I mean, as far as impressive goes, I knew he was an athletic guy. I didn't know he could scoot like that.
You think that might be on his Mel Kiper? You think that might be on his Mel Kiper draft tape?
Absolutely. Like, when you're talking about top end speed and the number one, like, it's always weird to me when big guys wear single digits. He made it look good. He's out there looking like a tight end.
Yeah, he looks good in it.
Yeah.
This is Dan Lanning with us here. Now, Maryland, uneven performance, is that an accurate description?
Yeah, I think there's definitely left out there that we can do better. There's growth moments that you want to have in every game, and we walked away with some things we can grow in that area.
How much, as a head coach, can you feel a performance like that coming?
I wouldn't say that we had like a bad week of prep or practice. There were some things that certainly could have been better, but I will say that like some of the penalties that showed up in the game, those are some of the same things that showed up in practice. So I'd say sometimes you can feel some of that. I don't know that you predict exactly what it'll look like.
Did I hear you say Wednesday that your defensive backs have been wearing boxing gloves this week?
They have, yeah.
And what is that for?
You can't grab people when you're wearing those.
Yeah. Is that something you've done before, or is that a new wrinkle?
Yeah. No, that's definitely something we've done before.
Do they like it? Is that,
No, they don't like it. Yeah. They definitely don't like it. But I don't like penalties either, so it's kind of how it works.
That's right. Dan Lanning's appearances here on The Fan brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Like a coach's playbook, Unitas has a winning strategy for your finances. You, us, Unitas.
46 with some showers here in Portland, 48 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks game day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 49. Rain this afternoon into Monday. For the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall, 47, cloudy and breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
For over 45 years,
hooks in the Northwest. Suddenly, this class looks like it could be very, very special.
It's time for Recruiting with Andrew Nimick, the Ducks Game Day edition on 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's talk some recruiting, as we always do. Andrew Nimick, Director of Recruiting, High School on SI, our recruiting insider right here on The Fan. Every Thursday, you can hear him 7 to 8 p.m. Recruiting with Andrew Nimick on Twitter at Andrew Nimick. Nimick, good afternoon to you. I've enjoyed watching the Huskies struggle this year, and now I'm getting more news that Oregon is starting to flip prospects. They got a tight end recently, maybe an offensive lineman to come. What's been going on there? The battles of Oregon maybe stealing away some of Jed Fish's top recruits.
Well, I think the first time I predicted they'd flip Vander Flug, the 6'7" 4-star tight end, I was actually talking to you. And said, he's visiting, and I think he's going to end up flipping. And sure enough, he did. Big time recruit. People see him as a top 20 tight end nationally, but kind of don't pay attention to his late surge. He committed to Washington, but picked up offers from Alabama and Oregon. So Alabama was actually in the mix for that one as well. Makes sense. Was recruited, for multiple years by Washington, as all these guys are. They're recruited for multiple years. So Kalen DeBoer and his staff had some familiarity with him. They needed a tight end. Oregon ends up getting him. The next prospect to watch is Zach Siskowski, who is, not quite walking distance from my house, but pretty close. It's Central Catholic. I've had him as my number one prospect in Oregon for 2 years now. He has seen another, we're talking about late surges, another kid who picked up kind of a late surge in his recruitment. You look at his senior film, he's 6'7". I don't know what it is about Oregon flipping 6'7" Washington commits, but he's 6'7", 285-pound left tackle who's picked up offers from Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and UCLA in the past month. You watch his senior film and you go, oh, yeah, that's why this kid suddenly has interest from Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon. Grandfather was a huge Duck fan. He grew up a Duck fan. He's visiting Georgia this weekend, Michigan next weekend, Oregon for a return visit on the 30th, and will make a decision probably during the early signing period. I think Oregon's going to be able to pull it off, but there's a really interesting dynamic there. Zach's grandfather passed away last year, and his dream was for his grandson to play for the Ducks. Now, it sounds like, he could fulfill his grandpa's wish. Well, the flip side of that is Zach kind of thought he was good enough for that Oregon offer back then, when his grandpa was not doing so well. And his hope was that before his grandfather passed, he would get that offer from Oregon. When he didn't, and then his grandpa died, his grandpa never got to see him get that offer. And so that sting of not getting that offer sooner actually kind of works the other way, where it's like they kind of slow played me, and now my grandpa's never going to get to see this moment. So it'll be interesting whether that ends up being a major factor for good or for bad for Oregon. Zach's mom went to Oregon. Zach's sister goes to Oregon. So a long family line there. I do think they pull it off, but it's not cut and dried because there is kind of an interesting slow play, maybe feeling a little bit slighted, and then the grandfather not getting to see it.
Interesting. That's an interesting backstory that sometimes you always think that family tie will be the determining factor. But in this case, also, I'd imagine if he's at Oregon, he probably makes him think about his grandfather a lot. Maybe maybe that's sad, and, he doesn't want to do that. It's just an interesting backstory there. Signing day, Nimick, is coming up. You're a couple of weeks away. The calendar is just chaotic, and coaches have to deal with it. Same week of the potential Big Ten title game for Oregon. Where else are they at on, I know the Kansas State tight end is at Lincoln Kier. I think I've seen that name out there. Is he still in the mix, or because they got the other tight end, is he out? How many of their guys are they worried about maybe losing? Just kind of where are we at now that we're a couple of weeks away here from that first signing day?
Well, a lot of layers to that question. There's a lot to watch, and you're right. The tight end position's one. Luckily, Oregon can showcase, hey, we have Terrence Ferguson, we have Patrick Herbert, we have Kenyon Sadiq. They all get the ball. They all get an opportunity. So Oregon doesn't really have to worry too much about turning off a tight end because one committed. So Lincoln Cure, because of weather, couldn't make the trip. If he ends up making a trip to Eugene, and he is trying to do that, Oregon's going to have a shot there. Andrew Olish, Lincoln Cure is a 5-star tight end. Andrew Olish is committed to Michigan. He's the number 3 tight end in America. He's visiting November 30th, right before signing day. So another position to watch. Jakeem Stewart is a 5-star defensive lineman. He's one to watch. And then we always talk about the coaching carousel. There's a quarterback carousel going on right now, and that's going to make things very complicated in the end. I think Julian Lewis could end up at either Colorado or Georgia. He's visiting Georgia this weekend. If you remember from a couple weeks ago when we chatted, Jaron Sangapolu-Tele is a fast-rising left-handed quarterback from Hawaii, the number 8 quarterback in the nation. He's very high on Oregon. The other school that's in the mix for him is Georgia. And Georgia actually delayed his visit, and Julian Lewis is now visiting. Now, does that turn Jaron off, and now it's kind of all Oregon to try to flip the Cal commit? Or is he willing to wait, see what's going to happen with Georgia, see if Julian Lewis either sticks with USC, not likely, or goes to Colorado, more likely, and then that opens up a track for him for Georgia. So Jaron Sangapolu-Tele is the big one to watch. I've talked to a number of Oregon commits, including Cooper Perry on Thursday's show, and said, who are you talking to? And he's like, everybody's talking to Jaron. And that's the thing. Everyone's trying to get him on board. This is a kid who you could make a strong argument is a top 5 quarterback in this class late. His favorite 2 players growing up, Dylan Gabriel and Marcus Mariota. If you can't close that kid, I don't know what to tell you. So also, how old is Dylan Gabriel that a quarterback recruit right now is saying, I grew up watching Dylan Gabriel. Jaron just last week, 2 weeks ago, broke the Hawaiian passing record. That is just a laundry list of historic quarterbacks from Hawaii. Tua Tagovailoa, Dylan Gabriel, Timmy Chang, Marcus Mariota, and now, of course, Jaron Sangapolu-Tele.
I love that background, too. Cal's got to be sitting over there saying, hey, what the hell, man? Like, everybody's talking about who's going to close this kid. He's been committed to Cal for a long time. That's just an interesting angle there. Last one for you, Nimick. How firm are we on DeCorian Moore? Because I continue to see highlights of his. I think he had 4 touchdowns last night. I'm salivating about what that guy can do in an Oregon offense next year. Is that one pretty solidified, or is there any concern there?
I always think when they're a 5-star guy, you got to be a little worried. But as much as Oregon can feel good, I think they should for DeCorian Moore. I know people made a big deal about him visiting LSU. Last week on the show, I talked about the fact that he was mostly there to go see a former Duncanville teammate, and it was a good football game. Why not go see it? Oh, yeah, and by the way, LSU lost. So it's not like he was there going, man, this gives me something to think about. Dallas Wilson, I've always said, I know he released a video saying how solid he is. I've always worried about Dallas Wilson. He is visiting Florida this weekend. I would keep an eye on that one. But, Brandon Finney, the 5-star corner, I think likely flips to Penn State. So if we're doing a pecking order of concern, DeCorian Moore's not real high on the list, other than the fact that because he's so good, everyone's going to try. So everyone's going to try, but he's said all the right things all along and continues to recruit for Oregon. Talking to Jaron, are you hearing from the commits? And he said, yeah, and DeCorian Moore. That's usually a really good sign. When guys stop recruiting on your behalf, or, if you pull a Mario Cristobal, you start recruiting for your next school when you're still at Oregon, that's a sign that they might be flipping. The fact that DeCorian Moore's working hard to bring an elite quarterback to Eugene, it'd be weird if he was thinking about going to LSU and 2 days ago he's talking to Jaron about, we should link up in Eugene. I don't know why they'd be there if they're not playing football.
Yeah, that's a great sign. DeCorian Moore seems like the real deal, maybe the most impactful wide receiver recruit they've ever had. Andrew Nimick, Director of Recruiting, High School on SI. You can hear him every Thursday right here on The Fan, 7 to 8 p.m. Go give him a follow on Twitter, at Andrew Nimick on Twitter. Thanks as always, buddy. We'll chat again, not next Saturday because I got to buy, but in a couple of weeks when maybe it's a big final recruiting weekend at home at Autzen.
Oh, yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about.
There you go. Andrew Nimick. Great stuff from him, talking some recruiting of Oregon trying to finish strong. Nothing like the college football calendar to plan conference championships the same week as your first signing day. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
And you know about that, Zach Stałkowski, is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
He seems like a real deal.
Deal with him if they beat Lake Oswego.
Might be looming.
Yes.
Your defense might have to go head-to-head against him.
Yeah.
So we'll get a full scouting report from you, potentially. You guys got a plan? Okay, I like that. There's your recruiting update from Andrew Nimick. Let's reset things. We'll see if we can get Dusty Harrow on the phone. Mike Jorgensen's going to come up. You're going to hear from Joey Harrington. We're just getting started here. Another hour to go for us. Now, though, it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It is 47 cloudy outside our studio right now. Maybe some showers around Portland. 47 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 49. Rain this afternoon into Monday. For the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall, 47 cloudy, breezy, and maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Don't let the game play you. Sports betting is popular among Oregonians, and those who bet on sports are at an increased risk of developing a gambling problem. Problem gambling can result in damaged relationships, financial problems, and increased substance use and mental health issues, but it is preventable. Are you betting on sports this season? Remember to set limits, avoid drinking alcohol while gambling, and gamble for entertainment only. Learn more at opgr.org or call 1-877-MY-LIMIT. This message is brought to you by VOA Oregon and the Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division.
Ducks Game Day continues.
Edwards Jr. back to throw. Looks middle. Hit. Ball came out. That might be a fumble. All the way downfield quickly. Brandon Johnson. Nobody can catch him from behind. 10-5. Touchdown. Touchdown, Oregon.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Wisconsin Badgers. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Happy game day to you. Oregon, Wisconsin coming up 3 hours from now in Madison. Oregon looking to go 11-0 for the first time since 2010. Getting closer and closer to kickoff. We'll give you some score updates coming up in a moment. Hour 2 here at Ducks Game Day on the Fan, presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill, celebrate responsibly. Let's head out to Madison and talk to Dusty Hara, our good buddy, every weekday right here on the Fan, 12 to 3. You can check out the program podcast as well with him and Cole Linehan, and of course, Oregon sideline reporter. Dusty, what's the give us a vibe check? What are the vibes like in Madison right now?
Cold. No, it's not that bad. Look, there's a buzz around here. I think it's a really cool setup if people haven't been out to Madison and kind of seen what it's like. Directly across the street from the stadium is Frat Row. So they've been going early and often. It's loud. It is. They're getting fueled up and ready to go. We pulled up at what was it, about 12:15 Central Time to get our setup all ready, and they were going in the front yards of every frat house all down the row. So they're coming off a big win last night. Wisconsin Hoops knocked off Arizona last night. So vibes are really high in Madison right now. So it's going to be a raucous environment. It's going to be fun.
It should be a fun one. Night game, jump around, Camp Randall. I can't wait to hear all the stories about it and your thoughts on it when you're back in town this coming week. What'd you make of the way Oregon played last week and how it translates to tonight? I think it's one of those where a little frustrating, a little clunky, not quite hitting on all cylinders. That's going to happen throughout the course of a long season. Is it a wake-up call to kind of relock them in? Is that a start of a trend of sloppy play and, God, they just need to get to the bye week? What do you make of the way they played last week and how it partakes into tonight?
Look, Anthony and I were talking about this during the pregame last week in front of the Mo, is that it just didn't have that juice. It didn't have that energy around the Mo and around the parking lots. And look, you can feed off of that. I think that this team, the way that they've played on the road has been really good this year. And they kind of rise to that occasion. And look, last week it was a 1-5 in conference play Maryland team that was on some tough times, and they were kind of licking their wounds heading into their bye week, and they came out and they were game. And I don't think we give enough credit to how good the secondary of Maryland was in that game. And overall, they are long, they're athletic, they look good, and their receivers lived up to all the hype. That Felton kid, Ty Felton, he's the real deal. But look, when you have a game like that and you win by 21, I mean, I know it didn't look like the Oregon team that we've come accustomed to seeing, but when the rubber needed to meet the road, they made plays, and they ended up coming out with a 21-point win. I mean, that's what great teams do. I think in this one, it won't be like that, hey, we got to create our own juice and we got to get the crowd active and live. It's the number one team in the country going on the road to one of the best environments in all of college football. Like, they're going to be amped for that. If you're not juiced for that, you don't got a pulse. So I think that you could take last week and you can say, all right, it wasn't the best, but at the same time, you win by 21, and now this is going to be a game where everybody gets up for.
Yeah.
Dusty, since you're an offensive guy, let me ask you this question. There's no Tez Johnson out there. Wisconsin has a good secondary. How do you deal with that? Who's going to step up? Who you throwing the ball to? What do you do with this Oregon offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and you know this from just your defensive mind, right? Like, in putting your coordinator hat on, when Tez Johnson goes in motion, it's not just a corner going from one side to the other. It's the corner pays attention, both safeties, linebacker has to have eyes on where 15 goes. That's gravity, right?
Yep.
And you are missing that gravity because he's not just a burner downfield. He is a precision route runner who finds soft spots in the zone on the underneath too. So I think that gravity, it's really hard to replace. And you got to be unique in the way that you use your motions now, whether it's, you're not just using Tez. It's going to be Justice Lowe. It's going to be Trayshawn Holden and Evan Stewart and then Terrence Ferguson based on where you want to get, what you want to get to. And that makes it a little bit easier on the defense, but you can still create your mismatches and your matchups in a variety of ways. I think where you go to is hopefully we see a little bit more of Gary Bryant Jr. It was great to see him back in his first action last week, returning punts. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more Gary Bryant. But look, guys, Trayshawn Holden has been playing amazing football. I think he has, of all players in college football, I think the passer rating when throwing to Trayshawn Holden is the second best in the country of any receiver.
Wow.
So, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, he doesn't get a lot thrown his way, but when they do, good things happen. And as we saw that big catch across the middle, he went up and high-pointed that ball. That's an uncatchable ball for a lot of guys. He went up and he owned it. So I think it's Trayshawn Holden, then we see what they scheme up with Gary Bryant, who's getting healthier with every week.
Yeah, we saw him returning punts last week. Not a lot of action on offense. We were wondering earlier today if that would translate a little bit more another week in the playbook and getting a little bit healthier and working some of that rust off. Maybe we see some more of him. Oregon is so guarded with injuries, and so it's one of those like, hey, when they take the field from warm-ups, let's see who's in uniform and who's playing and who's not playing. You were around there this week. I'm just curious. Everybody's got eyes on Birch. Everybody's got eyes on Jordan James. What's the deal with Marcus Harper? What do you think? We're a little more healthier? Are we a little more banged up? What kind of side of that argument are you falling on right now?
I think they're getting healthier. I do believe in I said this last week after the game, right, when Jordan James was on the sideline like lobbying to get back in.
Okay.
Right? He wanted to get back in. And it was more of like, hey, it's week 10. We don't need you to get those carries. We're kind of going to protect a guy from himself, right? Jordan Birch, you guys know this. If there is an injury that they think is significant, they will take that player, take him up the tunnel, go to the HDC, get him evaluated, and then either we never see him again or he comes back down and he's booted up. That never happened with Jordan Birch. They took the tape off and he was walking around the sideline. It wasn't like he had ice bags on him or anything like that. Marcus Harper, I don't know what the situation is there, but look, the reality of it is we were talking about coming out of spring ball that Dave Iuli would be a guy who's competing for that starting job at guard. Yeah. And I don't think he played bad in that game. And I think Kavika Rogers also stepped in and played really well. But so I'm less concerned there. And I think they're kind of being very cautious because starting a season 10-0 allows you and affords you that ability to be more cautious with guys. But as far as their availability, I mean, look, I would assume that most of those guys are going to be back today just based on the comments of Coach Lanning and after the game, and not concerned about Birch, not concerned about Jordan James, and the fact that, like, what I saw was those guys were okay with, being able to go back in the game if they needed it, but they were up by 21.
Well, it's also one of those signs, too, the depth that they have of just, hey, no, Whittington's running the ball great right now. Let's just keep riding him in the second half, and you just hang out over here, Jordan. We're going to need you for 25 carries maybe in a Big Ten title game or a college football playoff game. We'll save it for later. Dusty Hara, you can hear him on the call and the pregame show here coming up in about 45 minutes. We'll send it out to those guys in Madison. Check out the program podcast as well every weekday, 12 to 3 right here on The Fan. Love you, buddy. Have a great call, and we'll catch up again in, 2 weeks with the bye week, so we'll chat in 2 weeks.
Hey, love you guys. And guys, wind is howling.
Ooh.
It is 45 degrees here.
Ooh.
The wind is howling. It is cold when the wind starts blowing. So it'll be like 45 air temp, but with the wind chill, they're saying it could get down 36 at the lowest, 38-ish with the wind chill.
Look at that.
I mean, there's like 29 mile an hour gusts. I didn't know this about Madison. There's lakes everywhere around it. Like, it's just basically, you got to go around the lake to get to anything in this town. It's crazy.
It's almost like you guys should listen to my weather reports.
Wait, you do weather reports here on the show? We're going to start calling you Jim Cantori.
Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Have a great call, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, fellas. Talk to you soon.
There you go. Dusty Hara with the live weather report. And Rust has been telling you about the wind. It's chilly and it's windy.
Getting cold.
Getting colder in Madison.
Night game.
No snow. How long does it take for Oregon to play a snow game in the Big Ten? Because I'm pretty excited for whenever that happens.
Oh, there will be one next season.
Has Oregon ever played a
it.
snow game? There's a fun trivia question for you.
I'm pretty, at some point, they
I
have
played
to
in a
have,
snow
right?
game.
You did at Oregon?
Yeah, it snowed before the game, and there was snow
on the field.
Yeah, but
at Autzen, where was it at?
It was my senior year, but it melted.
Okay.
Oh no, excuse me, my junior year. That was my junior, but it melted.
So a little snowstorm Friday night,
just a little
bit, and then,
yeah. And it would kind of
to have
snow
been
during
one
the
at some
game,
point.
and then So I think there's been others.
That's pretty rare for like November snow. I don't
No,
have
it was,
very often.
yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, and people don't believe me, every time I stepped on the field to play a game, I don't think I played in the game, and it started raining. I mean,
Not
like
once in your career?
It's maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe.
Look, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it never rains in Autzen Stadium.
No, I'm serious. No, before the game, it would rain.
Yeah.
The game starts.
Kickoff time.
It kind of like, it stopped raining.
Cleared up.
And then we walk off the field, the game's over, and it starts raining. You think I'm lying, but I'm not.
I believe
I'll
you.
say, I remember that Keenan Howery
believe you.
punt return touchdown Civil War.
that was
That
raining.
was cold and wet.
No,
and
that rain was going sideways.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
That was going sideways.
That was some of that Forrest Gump rain.
Yeah.
Rain sideways, rain forward, rain backwards, rain.
Itty bitty stinging rain.
Yeah, there you go. Dusty Hara with a great update from Madison. It is windy and it is chilly. We'll give you some score updates from around the country. That is next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Now going to go deep. Boys got him down there. Catch made. Keep your balance. Touchdown, Oregon!
It's time for the Ducks Game Day scoreboard with previews and scores from around the country on your home for Oregon Ducks football, the Odyssey app, and 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's take a look at some scores around the country in college football. Happy Saturday to you. I love college football Saturdays, man. Starts early. It's on all night. The Kansas-BYU game's going to wrap up at like 11 o'clock tonight.
But it's almost over.
I know. I'm soaking up
Isn't that
every
crazy?
second we got, man.
It's like we just started.
So every year, Oregon's got 2 regular season games left. That's it. What the hell happened, man?
It goes so fast.
Every year.
does.
We're having fun. That's what they say, right? Time flies when you're having
That's
a great
right.
time.
That's right.
College football is the best. I love every second of
Once
it.
I get home after this shift, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Once you're home with your feet are up on the couch, crack a cold one, you got your football on your TV. Ohio State won 31-7 over Northwestern. Texas survived a scare against Arkansas, 20-10. Colorado might win the Big 12. Just brace yourself for them in the college football playoff. They won 49-24 over Utah. Clemson damn near choked it away against Pitt. They had a 10-point lead and found themselves trailing in the fourth quarter, but they won on a long touchdown run late, 24-20 the final there. Let's get to a couple of games in action right now. We are watching here in the studio. We got USC and Nebraska on in a battle of 2 inept offenses looking for bowl eligibility. This is a 7-7 game early. USC benched their starting quarterback, Miller Moss. Their backup threw a pick 6, I think, on their first drive of the game. But then they found a way. He was just chucking prayers up and hit a couple of them, and USC ended up scoring a touchdown. So that is a 7-7 game early. This is a tough one to hear if you don't like the Ducks and you like the Beavers. Oregon State is on the road at Air Force today. Air Force is 2-7 on the year. They trail 14-0 at halftime.
Row.
Whew, buddy.
Row.
That's not good. That is not good. They I mentioned earlier in the show, if you're just getting your car, you haven't listened much. Bengal Branson, who started last week for Oregon State, was supposed to be their starting quarterback again today. He was not on the flight to where is Air Force? Fort Collins? That's Colorado State.
Springs.
Colorado Springs, thank you. Was not on the flight out to Colorado Springs to play at Air Force. So they went with Giovanni McCoy, got the start. He went 0 for 2, has not completed a pass. Jabari Johnson, the freshman, came in and played. He is 2 of 4. He threw a pick.
Oh, come on.
Their passing numbers in the first half of this game against Air Force, 2 of 6 for 21 yards and an interception.
Maybe it is time to put in Ryan Goldbranson.
Averaging 3-3.5 yards per attempt. So nothing. That's
terrible.
That's bad football.
That is.
So Oregon State's having a rough one early. They are down 14-0 at halftime. Cal's getting worked at home by Syracuse. Talk about random scores. They're down 20 at halftime at home to Syracuse. If anybody cares about that. Penn State's up 21-3 on Purdue.
Nobody cares about that.
Nobody cares about that. Let's see what else we got. Notre Dame, 14-0 Virginia. SMU, who is in the driver's seat to go to the ACC title game right now. Believe that. Yeah, 5-0 in conference play. They lead 10-7, on Boston College late in the first half. We got LSU in Florida. That is a 7-7 game late in the second quarter. Fun fact for you, too, just remember this. So we have these big conferences now where there's no divisions anymore, so tiebreakers are going to decide who goes to the conference championship games. LSU is 6-3 on the year. If only favorites win the rest of the season in the SEC, LSU wins the tiebreaker to go to the SEC title game. Over Ole Miss, ranked higher than them. Georgia, ranked higher than them. Alabama, who's ranked higher than them. Tennessee, who's ranked higher than them. All these teams would have 2 conference losses if only favorites win the rest of the way. And LSU would win the tie. I can't remember what the tiebreaker is. Oh. They would get it, and you would get LSU as a 3-loss team in the SEC title game, which if they win is an automatic bid to the college football playoff. So. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Didn't quite think about that with these big conferences. Let's see. Anything else to note? Did I miss anything?
No.
My lock of the week, 7-6. It's early. No need to panic yet. South Carolina has a 1-point lead over Missouri. Late in the first. They're driving. They're driving late in the first quarter.
Okay, I'm watching.
The Gamecock's just about to wake up, baby.
Turn that game on. on.
Yeah, get that one on TV. So there you go. There's some look around the scores. Big game, obviously, tonight. Let's get to that coming up next, by the way, in our game to watch. Tennessee and Georgia are playing. Talk about SEC title implications. Tennessee, if they win, they're in the driver's seat to go. Georgia, do they need to win to stay alive? All that. That is the game to watch. We'll get to that coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
This year's ratings Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. Find out which game across the country our hosts are most interested in. Other than our game, of course.
Never a good look when your conference champion can't beat like an 8-4 team from the SEC.
This is the game to watch on your home for Ducks football. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Yeah, the only bummer about a 4:30 kick for Oregon tonight on NBC is that the only other really good game of the weekend is on at the exact same time. Georgia-Tennessee is also on at 4:30. Carson Beck cannot.
Like we were saying, that's why it's nice to have cable.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Tennessee, Georgia. Carson Beck cannot stop throwing interceptions.
Just killing him.
Nico, the quarterback. Should I try the last name?
No.
Can you say the last name?
I don't have it in front of me, but I am a Leava.
Yeah, sure. I just call him Nico's easier.
Yeah.
Good, incredibly talented young guy. He's had some ups and downs. Young quarterback, right? It's going to happen. Left the game with a concussion last week. He was clearly announced it earlier today. He will be playing, and so that 9.5 is the point spread in that game. But that unquestionably is the biggest one of the weekend. If Georgia loses, they're a 3-loss team. Maybe they still make the playoff, but that's a long shot. If Tennessee wins, they're almost a lock to be in the SEC title game. If Georgia wins this game, that's when you get that LSU scenario where all these teams have 2 losses and it goes down to a tiebreaker. I'm excited to see Tennessee-Georgia tonight.
When's the last time we've seen Georgia have 3 losses?
That's
been a long time.
Ooh, buddy. That's a fun trivia question.
Yes, that's a good one.
Last weekend, when they lost to Ole Miss, was the first time since 2020 they lost to a team not named Alabama. The last time they lost to a non-Alabama team was Florida got them in the COVID year. That was the last time. Last time they lost 3 games. Now, if we count bowl games in this or regular season?
No, regular season.
Regular season?
Yes.
Kirby Smart's first year, they were 8-5.
What year was that?
2016. Nearly a decade ago. They got to 3 losses when they lost the Sugar Bowl. That was an 11-1 or 11-2 regular season. So yeah, they're very good, and that doesn't happen very often. Seeing what happened to them last weekend was almost shocking. Of like, oh my God, is that Georgia?
But that was the quarterback play.
He's struggling right now, man.
Yes,
he's struggling. He's got to stop throwing picks. We'll see if he can do it tonight. They host Tennessee 4:30 on ABC. Let's hear from Joey Harrington. What are his thoughts on this game, the matchup? A guy who played at Wisconsin, joined Isaac and Suk as he does every Friday. That's next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
This is the game that you've been talking about. Mid-November. On the road. Tough place to play. Weather, although the weather seems like it's going to be pretty good. Where is the patented Joey Harrington worry meter now that we're here?
6.
A 6?
Yeah.
Would it have been an 8 months ago?
Potentially. 2 issues. One, the weather. It's going to be 52 and sunny, Like that's not Wisconsin. That's not Lambeau. That's not and Van Dyke is injured. And Wisconsin has not figured out their quarterback situation. Frankly, I don't even know. Last I checked, they were talking about having somebody else play. I mean, that is not the recipe for the worry meter to be spiked. Now, that being said, last week Oregon didn't look great. They still won by 3 touchdowns. They covered the spread. I mean, essentially it was the game that the odds makers expected it to be. It just wasn't in the fashion that we have come to expect as Oregon fans, right? So they missed Tez Johnson. They missed Marcus Harper. They it was noticeable that they were gone, right? Jordan James, so if you get into that situation at home against Maryland, where Autzen can help bring you out, what was it, 29-18 or something at one point?
Something like that.
Yeah. If you get into that situation and it's November and you're at home, you can dig out of that. If you get into that situation on the road at Camp Randall, you get 70,000, drunk college students who are screaming at you. You got the band. You got the pressure of the end of the college football season, a berth in the Big Ten championship. Like, there are stranger things that can happen, right? We've all seen it happen before, but I'm not nearly as worried about it now for those 2 reasons, being the weather is not going to be blowing sideways and sleet, and they're just not as good at minus Tyler Van Dyke. They're not as good a football team as we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year.
And they can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to the run game. So I mean, that's always one of those that when you're having a weird game, when you can turn around and hand the ball off, I mean, it's such a huge advantage. I just think we're at the point where if Oregon loses the rest of the year, I mean, Big Ten title game aside, because you're going to place a really good team, but these last handful of games, if they lose, it's because they lose, not because someone beat them. There's not a team left on their schedule that should beat Oregon, even if Oregon brings a solid B game.
Right. I agree. And the only reason that I was still focused on this game is because with a good Wisconsin team, not a great Wisconsin team, and some bad weather and some pressure late in November, a B Oregon team could get beat on the road. But that's not the situation we're walking into right now.
All right. Well, we won't talk to you next week because we're off. Wait, is next week the holiday? No, it's not, is it?
I think it's the weekend.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. We'll talk to you next week.
You just trying to bump holidays.
He might have even hung up. I don't hear him. Thank you, Joey. He hung up.
Joey Harrington's appearances on The Fan are brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here. 47 and dry outside our studio here in Slabtown. Maybe some showers around Portland. 47 and cloudy in Madison. Ducks game day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 49. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47, cloudy, breezy, maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Isaac Ropp, if soggy fall and winter golf bugs
Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Oh, what a throw. What a catch. What a catch. Terrence Ferguson.
Pacific Office Automation presents The Clear Advantage. A look at the players and units that match up well for the Ducks. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com.
All right, we got to get on our horse and move, so we're going to go fast. Mike Jorgensen right around the corner. Clear advantage, very easy one for Oregon today, and that is a quarterback. Oregon's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, a guy who is likely going to be a Heisman finalist in New York here in a couple of weeks, and they're facing a backup quarterback for Wisconsin who was turned into their starter because Tyler Van Dyke is done for the year, and Braden Locke has thrown an interception in every game he has started this year for Wisconsin. So the biggest advantage, unquestionably, at the quarterback position for Oregon today. Clear Advantage brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. They have your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com. Pacific Office Automation, problem solved. Let's go to Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Ducks. That is next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Jorgensen on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Well, we're quickly running out of time here. We got to send you out to Madison at the bottom of the hour. Oregon, Wisconsin getting closer and closer. 4:30 kick. You can watch it on NBC and, of course, hear it right here on The Fan as you always can. And one of the guys who will be on the call is our good buddy, Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. I am curious because it's, Eugene cold is one thing. Now we got Big Ten cold now. We got Madison cold weather.
The lake.
Do we got shorts on, Jorgie? Mike Jorgensen, how we doing? Do we got shorts on?
We do.
Always.
Hey guys, this is for Madison, Wisconsin in the middle of November. It's actually pretty good right now. About 50 degrees, but pretty gusty winds right now, and that's what's making it pretty chilly. Dusty's already got the battery-operated warmers in his shoes.
He's got the long johns on.
I think he's got some in his underwear, too, but he's got them all over the place. It's pretty funny, so.
Trying to watch out for those little hand warmers. You put one of those in your pants, you can burn something you don't want to burn, man. You got to be careful. All of a sudden, he's going to be jumping up and down on the sideline. You're going to be like, what's Dusty doing? Oh, he just burned himself with a hand warmer.
See, it's times like this I picture Jorgie and Dusty looking like a Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Yes. Yeah, I love it, man. Let's get to the game, Jorgie. This is a Wisconsin team I'm having a hard time getting a read on. They've had stretches where they've looked good. They've had stretches where they've been terrible. They've been competitive in a big game against Penn State. They've been blown out in a big game by Alabama. When you look at Wisconsin, what kind of stands out to you?
Well, they're dangerous. That's the thing about it. And I think what you just said was exactly what I was going to say. Is you look at two different teams, frankly, when they played Penn State here at home. I mean, they were tough. They were right in it at halftime until they threw a pick six, and Wisconsin did end up blowing them out. But really, it was close all the way through. And yet they go to Iowa, they just get absolutely blown off the field by the Hawkeyes. And so it's tough to find out, really kind of figure out what these guys are. They're 3-2 at home, so they're good at home. The two teams that they've lost to that are, excellent teams, frankly, obviously, Alabama and Penn State. So, they're better at home, no doubt about it. They're just dangerous enough, especially on defense, to make it difficult. And if Oregon doesn't come and have their A game together, it's going to be a tough game here at Camp Randall.
Jorgie, I'm going to ask you this question, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Wisconsin. What team was
I'm
that?
scared of Wisconsin. They're going to get it. That's a necessary opponent today.
The Badgers
there you go.
have a very good secondary. They got guys who are going to be playing in the NFL. What does Oregon need to do, and how do they deal with the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, you always wish you had Tez, right?
Right.
That's what makes it tough.
Yeah, that's another thing. You don't have Tez, correct? Yes. So now what happens?
You don't have Tez, and so now what happens is your tight end's got to be a bigger part of it. I mean, again, you're going to have to stretch the field eventually. When you talk about the safeties like Hunter Wohler and Preston Zachman and frankly Ricardo Holman, who had 7 interceptions. He has none this year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He had 7 interceptions last year, so he's always a danger to make those plays. You're going to have to somehow beat them deep sooner or later, like you did Ohio State, where Ohio State was thought to have all the All-Americans in the world, and they do, but you've got to show that you can beat them to kind of back them off a little bit. Still yet, I just think the tight ends are going to be such a big part of it. Getting Terrence Ferguson back and obviously having Kenyon Sadiq available and being able to work on them that way. Eventually, you've got to make the tight ends a big piece of it, and, always a reliable run game, right? I mean, if all of a sudden the safety have to start crowding the line of scrimmage, you can get George James back into it. Last week, guys, they only ran for 36 yards in the first half against Maryland. You can't do that here today because otherwise Wisconsin's going to be right where they were with Penn State, and that is dead even with you at halftime, and it's a whole new game. And this place sold out, packed. I got number 1 in town, and I can tell you, Anthony, you been here for a game?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Hardy Row is right across the street from the stadium. And, I mean, you should see it right now, guys. It is nuts right across the street because all the frat houses are right behind one of the grandstands. I don't know if it's east, west, north, or south, but the crowd is going to be in it. The students are going to be in it. So you've got to be able to make that defensive secondary honest. The running game always helps, obviously, but stretching the field, too, which they weren't able to do last week against Maryland. They've got to be able to do that sooner or later against this Badger defense.
Now, is the wind going to be a factor in the passing game?
I think so. I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, when you're going into it, there's going to be a lot of intermediate type of stuff. It's going to be tough to go deep. When the wind's at your back, obviously you got to be, careful about how you throw the ball because that wind is going to carry it. Sometimes when the guy might be wide open, it's going to carry it over him. But I think the wind's going to be a factor here tonight. Yep. Unless it dies down at dark. But right now, if it continues like it is right now, I think the wind will be a factor.
Yeah, I wonder who that's a bigger impact on, too, because Gabriel's seen a lot of football. Braden Locke's turned it over a bunch, so I'd be curious to see how that plays into it. And we'll get you out here on this one, Jorgie. We know the focus is always on running the football. You mentioned the numbers last week against Maryland. Not great in the first half, and even really game-wide. I mean, a little misleading because he had that long run from Jordan Birch in which, hey, maybe we give him a couple of carries a game the way he ran that one. But they didn't quite click. I'm just curious, was it no Jordan James in the second half, Dave Iuli? I thought the backup guards played okay. Weird game for the offense because that was something that I know they're going to want to do today against a not very good rush defense of Wisconsin. Where was the missing piece, and how big is that for them tonight?
Well, I think you just said it right there. I think they just played okay on that side of the ball offensively and on the right side of the offensive line. I don't think they really knocked people off the ball. They never really gained control of the line of scrimmage. And so, Maryland never really had to back off.
Yeah.
Did nothing to really make them honest by stretching the field. They made a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage. They continued to crowd the line of scrimmage. And then so you had to somewhat trick them to be able to get some points and some yards, including on that fake punt. So, I just think they were pretty average on that side of the ball for that game. They got to be better today as they, try to work themselves to 2 weeks from now with Washington and hopefully one more game back out this direction. But you got to get this one tonight. I just really think this is going to be a lot more difficult game than people think it's going to be.
Yeah, 8 straight games for Oregon. Wisconsin coming off a bye. Tough atmosphere, as you mentioned. They love their libations in Wisconsin. I know that much. So they're going to be ready to go after a day out of drinking on couches. All this spotted cow out of that. Jorgie, have a great time. Make sure Dusty turns on his electric blanket underwear and have a great bye week. Great call, and we'll chat again here in 2 weeks.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
There you go. Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. Says Dusty's down there with 37 layers on. Jorgie's walking around in a pair of shorts,
It's
man.
getting cold down there.
A little chilly.
Yeah.
Hey, Russ, do you know it's windy out there? A little chilly? Do you know that?
I've been saying that in my weather updates.
Do you know that? Were you aware of that?
Yeah, for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall, 47 cloudy and breezy at kickoff.
Mike Jorgensen. Love chatting with him every week. Hey, what's at stake? Only 2 segments left for us. We're back after this on The Fan.
It is 47 and dry outside our Slabtown studio. Maybe some showers around Portland, though. 47, mostly cloudy in Madison. Ducks game day forecast calls for the temperature to continue to climb well into tomorrow afternoon, reaching a high of 49. Rain this afternoon into Monday for the 4:30 kick at Camp Randall. 47, cloudy and breezy dirt. I don't know if you heard that. Maybe some showers in the second half. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
It's time to sharpen the knives and make some picks.
How do you feel about this weekend? Do you rent that yacht? No, I own it. That's how I feel about this weekend.
It's time for What's at Stake as the Ducks Game Day hosts look at the most impactful games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com.
All right, what's at stake? As always, brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. Don't forget to listen to the Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show. Your chance to hear the secret score and win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card, which we'll give away in the 7 a.m. hour on Monday. You just wait. They're going to play the sounder for you, hear what the score, what the stat is, and then when you hear the sounder on Monday morning, you text it in, and you got a chance to win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card. What's at stake today, Anthony? First 11-0 start since 2010. Oregon has only done that one other time in program history. That was it. Last time they were this undefeated this late in the season was 2012, and they lost to Stanford in the 11th week of the season at home. Zach Ertz was out of bounds.
Yeah.
And
he was.
He was.
That shoulder hit out of bounds.
Like-minded individuals here. Nobody's pushing back on that. And the last time they were 11-0, 2010. And so that's a really cool thing. There's one of those moments where we'll see how the game goes. 8 straight games, tough. Could be a tough environment, all that stuff. But it's also, for me, it's like I'm also trying every week to take a moment to realize this is pretty damn. You're the number one team in the country, one of the very few undefeated teams left in the country. You're the team with the target. Like, you're going to Wisconsin. This is a big deal for Oregon to come to town for Wisconsin. You weren't quite sure in 2010 if you were going to get back to this, or 2012 if you're going to get back to this. I'm enjoying it every single week.
Well, you're a target. You're a target for everyone. They're playing the number one team in the nation.
Yes,
at their house.
Yep.
And Jorgie
That's
said
a big deal.
They have a lot of people partying on the outside of the stadium. They can't wait to get inside.
Think about back in the day for Oregon, say, in your playing days when USC would come to town, or number one Washington would come to town. You would get amped up for those games and try and pull off the upset and shock the world.
Oh, yeah, but in the first 3 plays, no, we're not going to win this game.
I don't think this one's going to go our way today.
This ain't going to work.
No, I don't think we're going to pull this
This
up
game plan is not working, Coach.
No, they got more dudes than we do. They got more dudes than we do. Hopefully that is the case in the lesson that Wisconsin learns tonight, that we got more dudes than you do. We'll see if that ends up being the deciding factor. Our final thoughts on this one, and then we'll send you on your way out to Madison. We wrap it up next on The Fan.
Duck Fans Game Day.
And predict the score of today's Ducks game. Don't worry, we'll check their work after the game on the post-game scoreboard show. The Line to Watch is brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org.
All right, final segment for us. Then we'll send you on your way out to Madison. Kickoff coming up 4:30 right here on The Fan. If you're watching at home, the game will be on NBC. Two teams with great third-quarter traditions. Wisconsin does jump around at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
House of Pain, everybody jumps. The press box shakes and all that. Oregon obviously was shout. Before we get some final thoughts, I just wanted to scroll through a couple of quick updates for everybody driving around. Oregon State continuing to trail against Air Force, 14-0 in that game. Air Force, by the way, also on the 30-yard line going in on first down, so they got a chance to extend that lead a little bit. Let's see if there's anything else interesting going on right now. LSU Florida's tied at 10 at half. That game has big SEC title implications. If LSU wins, they are still alive in that race. If Florida wins, then LSU is eliminated, so just keep an eye on that one. And we got Nebraska USC on here in the studio, and that is a 14-14 game late in the first half, and USC will be punting the ball right back to Nebraska, who just threw them an interception. We don't need to pay attention to the fact that South Carolina is only up by 1 late in the first half. It's early. It's early. Don't worry about it. It's early. They're going to pull away. The second half team. They're a back nine player. Okay?
I'll call you later. I'll call you later.
I love it, man. I made a pick. The last time we did a show, I did Duke Miami, and I had people texting me like, "I love that pick. That's a great pick." Duke they were down by 1 in the fourth quarter. It was a 20.5-point spread, and I had people texting me like, great pick, Dirt. I like that. They ended up getting outscored like 28-0 in the fourth quarter. I thought, are you kidding me, Duke? Yes, thank you. Come on. Last thoughts on this one, Anthony. Oregon gets a bye next week. It's something that I know they're eager for. They're banged up 8 straight weeks. Man, it's a gauntlet. Wisconsin's coming off a bye. This one is going to be a stiff challenge considering the atmosphere you're in and the opponent you're playing tonight.
But I think Oregon wins by 17.
17?
They have too many dudes. They got a great offense, got a great defense, and special teams. The fake punt. Maybe another fake punt's coming up.
That was big. That was big last week.
Exactly right.
I'll stick on special teams. Let's catch the punts. How about that?
Thank you.
Gary Bryant, catch your punts. It wasn't his problem last week. That was Evan Stewart.
Yep.
I'll go. What do we want to do today? 31-14. How about that?
Okay.
I like your 17-point win.
17-point,
I like that. 31-14.
This is a solid win.
Just get out of there alive, get to your bye week.
Stay healthy.
And go beat the crap out of the Huskies in a couple of weeks.
Stay healthy.
That's all we can ask for. Stay healthy as well. Kickoff coming up at 4:30. The Line to Watch brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling, prevention, and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. That will do it for us. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're off next week, obviously, with a bye. Back in 2 weeks down at Autzen with the Huskies in town, and we got some revenge for them. As always, go Ducks.